What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for some more content for you. We've got a squad review to do with you today, seeing as the window did slam shut 2 nights ago. So we're going to go through position by position and see where we're at, give a bit of a review from each position and see where we're at for the remainder of the season, second half of the season to go. And yeah, let's get into it. Let's start off with goalkeepers. We've got Hugo Lloris and Fraser Forster. Obviously, Hugo Lloris is declining, hasn't had the greatest of seasons. Fraser Forster, when he's stepped in, he's done all right. Hasn't really pulled up any trees or anything like that. But it's definitely a position that we need to upgrade on, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think in the summer, you probably look at an upgrade at first choice. Lloris dropped down to second choice, and Forster goes down to third choice.
You just know what they're going to do, though, because in the summer it's going to come down to, oh, we're going to spend all this money on centre-backs, you hope, and they're going to be like, let's just see Lloris out for the remainder of his contract and then upgrade him then. I just see them making that excuse.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about us looking at his replacement. And I guess it depends. It all depends. For example, if they come out in the summer and there's a keeper who they've really wanted and they can only get him if they sign him and then loan him back to his parent club, then I guess that's a situation to review. But I would rather get in one immediately for sure, given Lloris's form. But look, if Lloris can show some consistent improvement from the end of this until now to the end of the season, we'll have to assess it again in the summer. But as of now, he's been making a series of mistakes, and he has the whole season. He really just has been declining quite rapidly. But he said, didn't he, that the World Cup, he's had a lack of mental freshness, all this kind of stuff. He's now had a 2 weeks break because he didn't play in the FA Cup. So we'll see how he does once he's back in the team. But yeah, I think we need one for sure. And in preference, yeah, he'd be our sub.
If these mistakes keep happening with Hugo, would you be open to maybe dropping him to the bench and starting Fraser Forster more consistently?
Oh, if these mistakes keep happening, I think we have no choice, 100%. I think Forster's shown last season he was decent at Southampton. When he stepped in, he's been okay for Tottenham, nothing special, but he's been okay. And we can't afford for these mistakes to keep happening, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I was of the opinion that there's no point replacing Hugo Lloris with Fraser Forster, because I still believe Hugo Lloris is a much better goalkeeper than Fraser Forster. But I completely agree, if these mistakes keep carrying on, I think we'll be left with no choice. So in terms of goalkeeper, we've got 2 very experienced goalkeepers in, but it definitely needs upgrading. But it's just something that we're going to have to make do with for the rest of the season. Let's move on to centre-backs. We've got Davinson Sanchez, Eric Dyer, Christian Romero, Japhet Tanganga, Clement Longley and Ben Davis. I mean, out of those, you're looking at only one of them being able to get into any other top 6 side, which is nowhere near good enough to where we want to be. A lot of these players have been at this club for way too long and they just need to go. This is a position that I'm most worried about in the squad moving on to the second half of the season. Yeah,
100%. It's the position that needs the most surgery. Having 6 centre-backs and only one of them that you're happy with, really. And then there's only one centre-back there who's of the required standard to take this team to the next level. The rest of them maybe can do a job here and there for a period of time. But when you're looking at, all right, who's your best centre-backs, 3 centre-backs who are going to play week in, week out and are going to be your starting centre-backs. There's just only one who you're confident saying, okay, this guy can be in a team that can challenge for top honours. The other guys, I just don't buy it. Look, I always hear a bit of fans say, look, you know, Man United had people like John O'Shea and you know, other teams have players that maybe aren't like unbelievable quality, but it's the manager's job to get the most out of them. But it's like, when you have you need a quality set and then people to step in when need be. And I think,
but like for every John O'Shea, you had a Nemanja Vidic and Rio Ferdinand.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, John O'Shea was never an out-and-out starter week in, week out like Eric Dyer is for us, like Ben Davis is for us.
That's the point. Like, if we had Davis and Dyer as options to step in when our when our best centre backs aren't available or are injured or suspended or something like that, then that's not a terrible situation to be in. If they're rotating occasionally, they come in for the odd cup game or a Champions League game here and there or the odd league game. But it's like when you're relying on them to be, you're not just relying on them to be starting for you, you're relying on these players to take you to the next level. You're relying on them to challenge for big things. You're asking them to be of the standard of Champions League, of top quality centre backs. You're asking Dyer and Davis to perform at the level of Thiago Silva, of Koulibaly, of Saliba, of Ruben Diaz, Laporte. You're asking these players to perform at that level. It's never going to happen. It will never ever happen. And the less said about Sanchez, the better. Tanganga, I'm not too critical of, because he never really gets to run games, but again, he hasn't really shown to be a defender yet.
Decent game against Preston.
Yeah, he had a good game against Preston. Look, I always feel harsh on Tanganga because he never gets to run a game, so it's hard to really judge him. But
and the injuries as well.
Exactly, but whenever he has played, he hasn't been unbelievable, but a lot of it you contribute to rhythm and stuff. Sanchez, again, he's never going to be the player, but I'm not going to be too critical of him because we don't ask him to be our starting centre-back, so whatever. Longley has come in and been average, so literally, I mean, we need at least the bare minimum 2 centre-backs, just for starters, just starting.
Top quality
we need people
ones
who can start, and then you're not even going into the fact that we need depth there as well, good quality depth.
The thing is, I'm not too bothered about having the likes of Ben Davis and Eric Dyer as substitutes, but that's the max they can be as squad players. We need players that are going to come in that have the same ability, if not better, than Christian Romero in that middle and on that left side. If we have 3 players there that are of that level, I don't mind having players like Eric Dyer and Ben Davis as the backups to them.
I agree, and it's just when we rely on them too much to be our best centre backs. That's when trouble comes a lot of the time. Yeah. But yeah, I'm all right with them being squad players. Sanchez, we should sell though.
Yeah, Sanchez needs to go. Tanganga, I don't know about Tanganga.
I would honestly, I wouldn't mind selling him, but I would like to see him just go on loan and actually play regularly week in, week out, and see what he would look like in a team when he's literally one of their starting defenders. I would like to see that. Longley, I just think there's no point continuing the loan deal.
Yeah, I agree with that. But when you're looking at the current centre backs, I'll say Sanchez for sure needs to go. Longley, don't renew. So out of the 3, Dyer, Davis, and Tanganga, I mean,
so technically we could need 3 if Tanganga goes out on loan.
I mean, I would say like keep Tanganga, Dyer, and Davis if you can't bring in 3 as the backups, but 2 is a must.
Yeah, we need
must.
2 at least, and it's a shame we couldn't even get 1 this window.
Yeah, I know. Let's look at the right wing back situation now. There's a lot of movement there in January. Obviously, Doherty and Spence have gone out. Doherty's gone for good, and we've been left with Pedro Porro and Emerson Royale. So obviously, Pedro Porro is the one that we all wanted. A very, very, very good right wing back. Emerson, I think it's good variation in the right wing back for me. I'm liking Pedro Porro and Emerson, where Emerson we can deploy in the games where we want to be a bit more defensive. Pedro Porro obviously has got unbelievable attacking output, but obviously Pedro Porro will be the one that we call on the majority of times. So I'm actually fairly happy with the right wing back, but I still think that we probably should have kept Matt Doherty around, seeing as we just let him go on cancelled his contract anyway. He's the one that could have been 3rd choice at left wing back and 3rd choice at right wing back. So I think we probably should have kept him about, because we could be leaving ourselves a bit short, but I'm still fairly happy with that position.
Yeah, I think in the long term as well, I think that position's looking good with Spence out on loan at the moment. Hopefully he comes back next season with the ability to challenge the first team and either be challenging Porro or either be challenging Porro, or obviously Emerson's there as well. Whether we sell Emerson in the summer remains to be seen. But I think for now to the end of the season, I'm pretty happy with that position. I think there's 2 decent options there. Hopefully Porro can really revolutionise our attacking threat from the right, but I think that's one of now, hopefully with Porro coming through the door and with Spence coming back next season, hopefully in general that's one of our stronger positions now in the squad.
Absolutely. Let's move over to the other side at left wing back, which is a position that worries me. We've got Ivan Perisic and Ryan Sessegnon. So Ivan Perisic turned 34 years old today.
Happy birthday.
Ryan Sessegnon has been dreadful this season, and I think a lot of Spurs fans have lost faith with Ryan Sessegnon. I think it's probably about time we try and cut our losses with him in the summer. But moving forward into this season with those two, in games where we not dominate the ball, but asked to be in the ascendancy, we're the favourites in the game and really are asked to press the issue. I'm not worried about Ivan Perisic whatsoever, but it's the games where we're under the cosh a little bit against the Man Cities, against the Arsenals, in the big games against anyone in the top six, really. I am really worried about Ivan Perisic in that position because defensively, he has shown that he's not good enough anymore in that position against the big teams. So I am worried about that position. Again, point stands as well with the right wing back, where I felt like we should have kept Matt Doherty around just to be that third choice.
Yeah, and I think the Perisic problem is compounded that as well. The left centre-back role is one of the weaker roles at the back as well for us, whereas on the right we have Romero backing up anyone on right wing-back, and it seems like a lot more of a solid outcome, whereas on the left-hand side, it's like if Perisic gets beaten, you've got a decent chance of beating the next guy as well, and that's a big issue. So I do agree with that assessment. I do think in general Perisic has been decent for us. I think since he's coming in, I think he's shown what an effective left wing back going forward can look like with his crossing ability and ability in the final third. Although I do still think he can show more. But at 34, you're not like long term. Obviously, you're going to need to upgrade on him, and with Udogie coming in the summer, that looks hopefully to be rectified already come the summer. But from now to the end of the season, it is hopefully going to be a bit of a sticking point considering Sessegnon's form. If he can find a bit of form like he was at the back end of last season, and at times at the beginning of this season he was looking okay, then maybe it'll be less of a problem. But right now, it's a bit of an issue because Perisic is getting exposed against the better sides right now on the left wing back spot, and Sessegnon, when he plays, doesn't really offer anything going forward, and defensively as well is not perfect. So it's a bit of a problem issue. But hopefully, in majority of games, if we do have a lot of the ball, Perisic will do the job just fine.
Yeah, and moving on to maybe the summer, left wing back. Well, obviously, you say we got Udogie coming in. And if we are to ship out Ryan Sessegnon in the summer, is Udogie and Perisic good enough for you to go into next season with?
I hope so. Yeah, I mean,
bear in mind, halfway through next season, he turns 35.
Yeah, he turns 35, and he'll run going into his last year of his contract. I think at the moment, from what I'm seeing of Perisic, I still see a super fit player who's in good condition. Obviously, he's not how he was maybe a few years ago when he was in his 20s. He is definitely slowing down. Whether that continues come next season is probably a likely situation. He's going to slow down even more. But I'd hope we can squeeze one more season out of him. But I reckon if Conte comes, there's a good chance we don't see him as a left wing back potentially. Maybe we'll see him as a winger, or we'll let him go. I'm not sure if Conte's not here next season. But if he is, I do see him just squeezing him one more year. Like you see, like Ashley Young's 35, and he was performing under Conte and stuff like that. So I think we can probably
league though,
Well, he's in the Premier League now. He plays.
Who, Ashley Young? No, I'm saying when Conte had him, it was in the Italian league, and
he's
made him
done right for Villa, to be fair, this season.
Done okay, yeah, but it's not the required ability that we want to see at Spurs.
Udogie is, but imagine he's a sub to Udogie. It could be okay.
Yeah, it could be okay. I would like to see one more maybe come in that can play both sides. Like I think Matt Doherty. I know he wasn't great.
Get him back on a free.
Why not? We're paying his wages anyway. What's the difference?
Yeah.
Central midfield, let's go on to now. 5 players we've got to fill that position. Rodrigo Bentancur, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, Pape Matar, Yves Bissouma and Ollie Skip. So all players at a very good level in my opinion. Obviously the starters at the moment are Rodrigo Bentancur and Højbjerg. Højbjerg has not been on the greatest form since coming back from the World Cup, and I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe our starting choice a bit evolve maybe throughout this season. Ollie Skip obviously came on against Preston and had a really good cameo, but he has flattered to deceive this season since coming in. Bissouma, I feel like Bissouma is growing into the role, and I feel like there's a really good player there, so I'd like to persist with Bissouma, and I've been very impressed with Pape Matar ever since he's come into the team. So I think we're good in central midfield.
Yeah, I like our options. I do think we lack a bit of variation when it comes to having a really good passer in the team. I don't think we have a good creative passer. A bit like I think a lot of the top teams, they have someone in the centre who can really open up the pitch with an amazing passing ability. I don't think any of these midfielders we have are bad passers, but none of them are really elite visionary long-range passers who can really dictate games with their passing ability, like a Neves or someone like that. So I think that's missing from these set of midfielders. They are all decently technically. They're all good defensively, which is crucial for Conte's system. I don't think any of them are real liabilities when it comes to being defensive. I think on the ball, they're all good, with none of them being. With only really Basuma and Bentancur, in terms of like being able to drive with the ball, they have potential to be elite in that. But right now, I would say they're just very good. Although Basuma was definitely showing elite qualities at Brighton, I think Basuma is technically better than Højbjerg, from a technical standpoint. And I would I have a feeling by the end of the season we could be seeing Bentancur and Basuma as our first choice as opposed to Højbjerg. I think Højbjerg right now has the shirt, although since the World Cup he hasn't been putting in the great performances. I think we're okay from now to the World Cup. I think Skip and Sarr
World Cup end of the season.
Sorry, I think Skip and Sarr are. Good young options who can step in when need be. I don't see them, if everyone's fit, getting that much game time between now and the end of the season. But I'm liking our options. But I think long term, I think we could add a really good creative passer into that mix.
Well, yeah, you say that, but we've got 5 options in midfield, right? With only 2 spots available for a starter. Would that mean getting rid of one of these central midfielders to accommodate for that player? It must be.
Probably. Depends. It depends if...
Especially with the Champions League state of that squad would be...
Yeah, I think now to the end of the season, we know 3-4-3 is the formation we're going to go with. We know that Conte, in previous jobs, has switched between a 3-5-2 and a 3-4-3. So if he does... I don't think... Basically, it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy why we go with the 3-4-3, in my opinion. We go with the 3-4-3 because we lack creativity in a 3-5-2 because we don't have a creative passer. But we can't sign a creative passer unless we intend to go for 3-5-2. So it's a bit of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. That's why we play that formation. I would like long term. I think if we sign that player, it gives us a lot more tactical variation, in my opinion. And either letting one go or going out on loan. I think that would have to be the case between Sarr and Skip, maybe going on a loan deal if we sign someone. But I do think that is the long term answer for this midfield situation. But I do think Bentancur, Basuma, especially them two, and I think Højbjerg, I feel like is a really good midfielder, but he's limited and has a ceiling. Whereas I feel like Bentancur and Basuma, they're very good, but they have a potential ceiling to go into elite category right now, although they're not there yet. Whereas Højbjerg is never going to be better than just like very good.
Yeah, I love Højbjerg as a player, I really do. But I feel like out of those options, I mean, Skip and Sarr aside, because they're young options and they're doing their development. But out of the Basumas, Bentancurs and Højbjerg, out of those 3, I feel like he does have the lowest ceiling out of the 3. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he's the one, if we're going to upgrade, it's probably going to be him. Mm-hmm. And I'd probably like to see that happen, to be fair. I mean, if we could bring in a real good passer of the ball in the midfield that has that eye for a creative pass, I think Højbjerg might be the one to make way.
I don't see us selling him this summer, but I
don't either.
But if we were to bring one in, I think we'd probably loan out Skip or Sarr.
Right wing, we've got Lucas Moura and Dejan Kulusevski. Obviously, all these positions now, you can play a Variash, Danjuma can play on the right, Richarlison can play on the right, but those 2 are the clear options at right wing. Lucas Moura has just started training with the team again after a while, so it looks like he's going to be back in contention soon. But obviously, Dejan Kulusevski has been brilliant for us since he's come in, and he's one that's going to be here for the future, and he's a brilliant player for the now as well. Lucas Moura is going to be leaving at the end of the season, so we're going to have to buy another player in that position. And to tell you the truth, I actually would have preferred to see Bryan Hill take that spot than Lucas Moura.
Yeah, with Lucas leaving in 6 months, with him coming back into the team, I think in a perfect world I would rather Bryan Hill as well. But if Lucas isn't going anywhere, and he is now back available, I think Bryan Hill really wants to play. We know that he's sick of not playing.
His contract and not Matt Doherty's.
Yeah, potentially, but we didn't. this is what the situation we're in. I don't think I expect to see a lot of Lucas Moura from now to the end of the season, to be honest, especially from the start. I think Kulusevski, obviously, a long-term view, he's going to be our right winger, hopefully for a long time. And I think he's going to go from strength to strength. I can see him getting even better in that role. And it does beg the question in the summer, if we are going to go for another right winger to kind of give him competition, what kind of right winger do we go for? Do we go with a young option who's going to compete with him, or do we go with an older option who's more senior to Kulusevski? It's going to be interesting to see. Or do we just go for a player who's versatile, who can play on the right and maybe can play multiple positions to alleviate that problem? But for now, obviously, I'm delighted with Kulusevski there. If he does get an injury for any sustained period of time, it does worry me a bit, because obviously Lucas hasn't really been up to it, and I don't really like Richarlison on the right. Danjuma, I haven't seen him play on the right yet, but I know that's not his strongest position, so we don't really have a great option there to be consistently great on the right hand side without Kulusevski. But that's the hand we're dealt. Hopefully he can stay injury free, which really hasn't been that really has been a problem for him this season. But long term we're looking all right there, but in the short term, if he does pick up an injury, we have a problem. But hopefully Lucas can be an option, which he really wasn't in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I hope so. But in terms of the summer, what you were saying is, do we get an experienced one, or do we get a young up-and-coming one? I'd like to see us get a young an up-and-coming one that's maybe similar ilk to Dejan Kulusevski, where he's up and coming, but he's also got a little bit of experience. And with Dejan Kulusevski, with the injuries that he's had this season, he will see a lot of game time. So I would like to see two players of a similar level on that side.
What about if Ziyech was available? Would maybe someone like him, he could be cheap?
I would take Ziyech, I would take him. And he's not even that old, is he?
But is that, or do you go for Marcus Edwards? Could we do that? Is that someone you'd consider?
Ziyech, I didn't realise.
Yeah, he's quite old, yeah.
I would prefer Ziyech over Edwards, to be fair.
Interesting. It's interesting. Yeah, I think I'd prefer Ziyech as well, because I think he would be hungry to break into the team, but as well he knows he'd be battling with a very good player like Kulusevski, and he'd respect him as well.
The number one player I want in that position is Mohamed Kudus. Not only can he play there, he can play a different variation of positions as well, so he's not just tied down to that one spot. Good, young, up and coming, physically really strong, got great technical ability. I mean, I think he just fits the bill perfectly.
I think that's probably going to be the key to it, having someone who can be versatile, who's probably more naturally on the right, but can be versatile in multiple positions as well, so that even if Kulusevski is fit, he can find a way into the team somewhere else. And I think actually someone like James Maddison would fit that bill.
Yeah, James Maddison as well, but he's going to be a hefty price.
He would be.
But Mohamed Kudus as well can play that James Maddison role. He can play in that midfield and be that creative passer as well. So I think either of them would be an absolute great move for Spurs, that's for sure. But let's move on to the left wing, and we've got Heung-min Son and Arnaut Danjuma. Obviously Richarlison plays in that position as well, but I think we're good. We're good on left wing going from now to the end of the season. You saw Danjuma, albeit it was against Preston, came in, hit the ground running, scored in his debut and showed a few nice touches and some direct play. So I'm liking the look of Danjuma. But Sonny as well had a very poor season, but you're not exactly going to look past Sonny because of what he's done for Spurs last season. Golden Boot winner. And I think he's going to get back to it as well second half of the season. So I'm happy with left wing.
Yeah, it's a difficult one when it. I think right now, I think we have good options. Obviously, Danjuma comes in as a different kind of profile to Sonny. He's better on the ball, better one-on-one situations up against defenders, dribbling, a bit stronger than Sonny. Hopefully, he's going to be a bit better when it comes to decision making in and around congested areas and getting out and being able to hold off defenders and things like that. Sonny still has that elite finishing ability, like we saw against Preston. He has that ability to run in behind. I'm thinking a lot of the time as well, though, a lot of the problems is Kane is the one going further forward and Son's the one dropping deep, and it's causing issues. It's causing Son basically to play in areas he's not very comfortable with, and that's not where we saw the best of him last season. So hopefully with that tactical he can change that. But I'm also hoping Danjuma can drive him forward as well and getting better and bettering himself. Is there a case for Son getting a bit too comfortable in his role at Tottenham? He's the man. we know, it doesn't matter how badly he plays, he's sticking in the team. He knows that, he's the man in South Korea as well. He's like the main man on that front. So, and he knows that all the Tottenham fans and management, they all love him so much. But hopefully, maybe getting a left winger in to compete with him could maybe shake things up a bit, I'm hoping.
Yeah, the thing is with Sonny, is it a case of him being too comfortable, or is it a case of Spurs mismanaging him a little bit? Because I feel like he's not that player anymore that he was 2-3 years ago, where he sticks out on the left wing. Maybe in this way it should be Richarlison and Danjuma on the left wing and Kane and Son up top, because I feel like he just plays better through the middle now. And I don't feel like he's that player where, he attacks that left wing game after game, moment after moment, beats player after player. I feel like he should just be hanging on the edge of the last shoulder of a defender and trying to beat that offside trap and play balls in behind to him. Yeah,
and I agree. And that's the problem I'm seeing right now in the formation. I'm not saying that, I think it could be both, but I think our formation is hurting. And I do remember, to be honest, right when Conte first came in, he was struggling to adjust to it, if you remember. For a few months, I was saying, I'm not sure the formation's helping. And then he did make a really good adjustment. Actually, I think the adjustment was Kane started to drop deep and Son was the one running in behind. And maybe we have to do more of that to get more out of Son. But then again, does that take away from Kane's goal-scoring ability? Maybe Conte feel like he would, although Kane still does seem to get goals wherever he plays, so I don't think it matters too much.
And that's what you saw under Jose as well. That's where all the goals came from. Kane dropping deep and Son running in behind. And they were monstrous together. I'd like to see us getting back to that, to be fair.
Yeah. But then again, all the poachers' goals we're seeing from Kane, is that because he's playing higher up the pitch? I'm not sure. So you could argue it either way, but I would like to see us starting to get more out of Son again. But in long term, I guess we'll wait and see whether Danjuma gets signed in the summer or not. We'll have to wait and see how he performs. Sonny, I don't, even though he's having a hard time, but hopefully he recaptures form. I don't see us selling him in summer or anything like that. I think we're in a solid position. But do you think getting Danjuma in, does that tell us what the management team are thinking about Richarlison in terms of his best position?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, with Danjuma, because we've signed Richarlison in the summer for 60 million, and we've pretty much brought in a player that covers the exact same position as Richarlison. So, I mean, me personally, I feel like his best position is straight up top Richarlison. I think we saw in the World Cup what he could do when he's there on a consistent basis. I think he can perform on the left to a good ability, but we just haven't seen that as of yet with Spurs. And I think his Spurs season so far has definitely been underwhelming, let's say. Hasn't scored a Premier League goal yet. We're halfway through his season. Yes, he has had injuries. Yes, he has been forced on the right a lot of the times. But I just think it tells me that we just need another option. And I think that the Spurs management team, I think they all think that all these players can play a variety of different positions, and they're all pretty versatile.
Yeah, I guess talking of Richarlison, I guess let's move over to the strikers.
All right, we'll go to the strikers. We've got Harry Kane and Richarlison. Obviously, Harry Kane, absolute monstrous striker, second top goal scorer in Europe this season, when Richarlison hasn't played up front this season, to be fair. He's only played on the right-hand side pretty much for the majority of the season. Would I like to see another player come in as striker? I think I'm happy. If Richarlison could play back up to Harry Kane and given the chance to do so, I'd be happy. But he'd never want to take Harry Kane out of the team.
That's the problem. We need to start trusting ourselves to be able to take Kane out of the team if need be. And like when you look at those the front two there, Richarlison and Kane, like do I see us bringing in a player who's better than Richarlison to play back up to Kane? I don't really see it. Could we go for could we have a striker who's a bit of a different profile? Maybe someone who's a bit taller, who can provide a bit more of an aerial threat when to throw on for the last 20 minutes of games or so in certain games, like a Llorente used to be for us. Could we have that kind of striker available? Maybe, but I'm not desperate for it. I think Kane's enough of an aerial threat to be there, and I think Richarlison's enough of a running behind threat to be the option as well. But the problem is, whether it's Kane still just always making himself available, never want to come out of the team, or the managers not trusting Richarlison to be the option to come in for Kane, we do have an issue where even we could have a backup to Kane as good as Richarlison, but even then we still don't use him. So it's really difficult to think about buying another backup for Kane, and like, are we ever going to play this guy if we bring another one? So I do think I'm pretty happy with those two strikers as are going forward in the long term, if Kane wants to stay especially. But we need to start seeing Richarlison in that role if we're going to either both keep squad harmony and also just ask different questions of the back line of the opposition, which we don't do. So I want to see Richarlison be used more, as much as Kane's doing great. But yeah, I am pretty happy with those options. I don't think we can do much better right now.
If it comes to it in the summer and Conte does go, and we bring in, let's say, for argument's sake, a Pochettino that wants to get back to the high pressing, high energy, high intensity football, is there a case to say that maybe we should let Harry Kane go and bring in and maybe go all out for an Osimhen or someone like that?
There is definitely a case. I think tactically it'll probably be. I think tactically, as long as Kane's there under a manager like Pochettino, he's always going to have to adjust for someone like Kane. He's going to have to adjust the system, and then maybe he can make it work. And adjusting the system for someone as good as Kane, I think you could definitely argue the benefits outweigh the deficits of adjusting your system. But there is definitely a case to say that Richarlison and Osimhen, the way they press and how intensely they can run at defenders and get in their faces and cause mistakes and things like that, that is more suited to what Pochettino wants out of his system. And maybe getting the money for Kane and selling on might give the team a better overall structure in that system as regards to changing it to suit Kane.
Or maybe in, let's say, a Poch 4-2-3-1, would you even like to see Kane drop into the number 10 and use Richarlison or Osimhen or whoever it may be up front?
That could also be that can definitely be something to consider 100%, because I think Kane 100% has that ability to be a quality number 10 now. I really do. So I think that's definitely something as well you can think about.
All right. Well, there you have it. That is the squad overview for the remainder of this season. Obviously, what we've talking about is massive need to upgrade in the centre backs. Left back is a worry for us going on into this season, and we don't have a ball-playing midfielder in the middle of the park, which is also a concern. But apart from that, we seem all right, apart from maybe Doherty going, which is by the by, really. I mean, no one's really that upset he's gone, but we could have used him as an option, seeing as the way he left. We could have used him as an option for a third choice on left and right wing-back. But hopefully it won't need to come to that. But I think for the majority of the positions, we're actually all right. And I think the squad is shaping up in a really nice way. But for me, it's not happening fast enough, and these centre-backs should have come in at least 2 years ago now.
What I like about the squad in the good positions anyways, we've got a nice balance of youth and experience in a lot of these positions. Players who are up and coming, trying to prove themselves and have high quality, and also players who are experienced in that position and we know can do the job. Obviously, we need those centre-backs in as soon as possible. We have to wait to the end of the season now. But I am liking the squad. The rebuild is starting to take shape, and hopefully in the summer we can really go and complete it. We can really just focus on those key positions in the summer, unlike maybe these other windows where we've had so many things to sort out. It's like where do you start? But I think in the summer it's clear now where the real problems lie.
When you're looking at the squad, and not just the squad, but in terms of where we're at in the development stage of the squad and where we're at in terms of a project stage, where would you say par is for us this season, or any season in the Premier League? Let's say it starts on a blank slate. Where do you think par is for us?
Par, as in if the season was starting now? Probably top 4. I'd still say 4th.
You reckon?
What, you think lower?
I don't think so, because I think...
You think lower?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at it, I think Arsenal, Man City, Chelsea and Man United are stronger than us, in my opinion. I think probably 5th. Maybe you could even put Liverpool in that bracket. So I'd say 5th or 6th, in my opinion.
I guess, yeah, from strength of the squad, yeah, Chelsea, I mean, I guess the season was starting now with the squads everyone has. Yeah, I guess I didn't consider everyone's squad, which I probably should have. Probably I still think we're lacking in key areas. Yeah, you're probably right, probably sixth. But I think, luckily, now teams haven't gelled yet and all these kind of things. And we're still, I think, we're in a position where we can get fourth. But probably, you're probably, in terms of quality in each position, we probably are still sixth.
So, but I completely agree in terms of moving on from now until the end of the season. I think fourth is there for us if we go on a really good run. I really believe that. And when you're looking at the next 10 games of who there's a possibility for us to really go on a run in these next 10 games. We've got 2 games in the top 10 of the top 6, one being this weekend against Man City. Then in a few weeks, we've got Chelsea at home. But those are the only 2 teams in the top 6 that we have in the next 10 games. So now is a really big opportunity where we can go on a nice run and really stamp our authority in this top 4 race. Because when you're looking at the teams in the top 4 race, yes, Man U are going well, but they have the potential to slip up here and there. Newcastle are stuttering a bit at the moment with a lot of 0-0 draws. So I think there's an opening for us. I really do. And we need to make the most out of it in these next 10 games because it will stand us in really good stead going into the last 9 games of the season, whatever it may be.
Yeah, but once we do sort out the centre-backs, the goalkeeper, once we sort that out, all of a sudden you're looking at the team and it's like maybe we can compete with squad-wise, team-wise with the teams above us.
Yeah, but that's just the question of are we going to get the required quality that we need this summer? That's what it always comes down to, isn't it?
Always.
And, we said it last summer, went into it needing a right wing back, needed centre backs. We end up with Longley on loan, who hasn't done nothing, and we ended up with Jed Spence, who Conte didn't want to use. So if they pull that badness again this summer, then we're just back to where we were at the start of this season. So anyway, let us know in the comment section below what you think of our squad review, what changes you would make, what you'd like to see happen, and where you think we are in terms of other teams in the Premier League. Where do you think our par is if the season was to start on a blank slate? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always,
come on you Spurs.